Also, the legacy of war. We examine how this conflict could be redrawing the world as we know it. A lot of people see the invasion of Ukraine by Vladimir Putin's forces as a pivotal moment in history. In fact, the German Chancellor Olaf Scholz called it a turning point, a monumental shift, which will have consequences for many nations and how they work together. Here's our special correspondent, Alan Little.
The war in Ukraine has changed the world. We are in new and more dangerous times. The post-Cold War era is over. It has been brewing a long time. It is nearly 20 years since Vladimir Putin first sent troops to occupy parts of Georgia, 8 since he occupied parts of Ukraine. He has sent spies into British cities armed with nerve agents to murder exiled Russians. But the Western democracies did not disengage. Europe built up an unhealthy dependence on Russian gas. Even now, Europe buys Russia's gas at $1 billion a day. London became a safe place for Russia's wealthy elites to park money. They built prestigious property empires. Few questions were asked about where the money came from. But Putin has misread the world catastrophically. First, in his view that Ukrainian is a bogus identity. Ukrainians have proved it's an identity they're ready to fight and die for. Putin's plan for a swift decapitation of the state has failed. Russia's military incompetence has been striking. Most importantly, he misread the West, believing it weakened by internal division and in long-term decline. But the West is more united now than it has been since the fall of the Berlin Wall. The economic and financial sanctions it swiftly agreed are the most punitive ever imposed. In effect, they expel Russia from the global economy. A new economic Iron Curtain has descended. It will plunge Russia into a profound economic crisis. Industries will grind to a halt. Unemployment will rise. Inflation will destroy people's savings. The West is now committed to ending its dependence on Russian gas. There will be no going back from that.
This is also a war between democracy and authoritarianism. It's not just that Vladimir Putin doesn't want a Western ally on his doorstep. It's also that an increasingly repressive Russia that locks up its political opponents doesn't want a successful, open democracy on its doorstep either, for fear of the example it might set.
In the 1990s, Boris Yeltsin tried to turn Russia into a democracy. When that failed, Putin took it back to its imperial past, aggressively asserting Russia's right to defend itself by dominating its neighbors. The question now is whether this fight will go global and divide the world into two mutually antagonistic blocs. China and Russia are bonded by a shared antipathy to American power. China does not want Putin weakened or the West strengthened, but it will be dismayed that this is precisely what Putin's war has achieved. The war threatens to roll back decades of economic globalization. Beijing does not want that either. This is a fight between democracy and authoritarianism. It is also a fight between two conflicting worldviews. Putin wants a return to something like the Yalta Settlement of 1945, which divided Europe into spheres of interest and gave Russia domination of Eastern Europe. The West wants the values of the Helsinki Final Act of 1975, which recognized the rights of sovereign independent states to choose their own destinies and alliances. This is the face that has become the living symbol of that fight. President Zelensky has united Ukrainians around a powerful and proud sense of who they are, and is saluted now across the democratic world. Alan Little, BBC News.